be nice to practice taking care of each other in our old age by doing household chores as well. It would be good preparation for when we have kids by looking out for them. It's a win-win, right? Susie, my mother-in-law, glares at me as if to say, "What's your problem?" Subbed in the background. My sister-in-law's husband and my father-in-law, Raymond, are already assembling a crib without asking. He's right before my eyes. Preparations for moving in together are rapidly underway. My husband, looking amused, meets me and gazes. My name is Miranda. Twins, I live with my husband, Michael. We met through work and started dating. I was always busy with work, so I didn't have any other opportunities to meet people. Michael told me he liked me from the moment we met, but I initially thought of him as just a business contact. So when he first asked me out, I was genuinely surprised. Although I wasn't initially interested in Michael, I was in my late 20s. And with a little push from friends, I decided to give dating him a try. Both of us had little experience in love, so it was an awkward date. But spending time with Michael was generally enjoyable. Fast forward about 3 years and Michael and I decided to get married. We are both quite successful for being just shy of 30, and with our combined income, we bought a spacious house on a mortgage. My dream was to raise a family and have a dog here with Michael. I thought Michael felt the same way. At least that's what I thought when we first moved into the house. But about 6 months after getting married, I realized Michael no longer shared that dream. My sister-in-law Elsie got pregnant. Elsie lived nearby and would occasionally visit, but her visits increased significantly after her pregnancy. She would often show up unannounced, and I was even shocked to find her sitting at our front door after a shopping trip. When I found her, she angrily said, "How could you leave a pregnant woman waiting outside?" But I had no idea she was coming. I was already juggling a hectic life. Balancing work and household chores, and adding Elsie to the mix made it unbearable. She would show up early in the morning, saying, "Our washing machine is acting up, so we thought I'd bring my laundry for you to do." Or come over at home with her husband and say, "We're hungry, feed us." I was at my wits' end with Elsie, and consulted Michael, but he just said, "What's the big deal? Elsie is my sister, and she's your sister-in-law. It's natural for her to visit." He told Elsie that this was becoming a problem. He asked her to stop burdening him with chores in the early morning and to stop timing her dinner visits for when he got off work. Elsie left in tears, and then Raven and Susie showed up. They lived near his in-laws because Michael had suggested it would be convenient when they had kids. However, this decision backfired as Raymond and Susie came over, seemingly in retaliation for how Elsie was treated. He was made to sit on the floor and was berated for being a terrible woman. He already knew that these two didn't like him very much. They had been kind to him before they got married, but their attitude changed when he said he would continue working after marriage. They held old-fashioned views that a woman should stay home after marriage. They also cared a lot about appearances and had lectured him multiple times about how his working might make people think that Michael didn't earn enough. He didn't quit his job, so they started disliking him. He had reservations about building a house near them, but they were important to Michael. He thought their attitude might soften when they had grandchildren, so he went ahead with it. However, it turned out to be a big mistake. They scolded him for over an hour, saying it was terrible not to help Elsie, who was pregnant. They even demanded drinks when they were tired from their lecture. Even the coffee he made was criticized as being bad and bitter. After they left, he was so frustrated that he cried. He even told Michael that if Raymond and Susie were going to be involved, he wanted a divorce. Michael was shocked by the word divorce, but when he saw him crying, he comforted him and said, "I didn't know you were feeling so cornered." He promised to talk to his parents, and a week later, Elsie's baby was born. It was a cute girl, and both Michael and he melted when they saw the pictures. A week later, when he was oddly thinking about wanting a child with Michael, Elsie showed up at their house, but she didn't come alone. She brought her husband Raymond and Susie, cheerfully announcing, "We are here." He was confused as Elsie's husband walked in carrying large bags and said, "We'll be counting on you from today." He asked it to you. He was confused, but Elsie's husband and Raymond were carrying a lot of luggage into their house from the car they had parked in front of their house. He asked, "What's going on?" When he asked Susie, who was sorting through the items in the entranceway, she snapped at him, "Why don't you help out? You're so clueless." Still not understanding, I went to the living room, followed by Raymond and Elsie's husband carrying something large. Elsie directed them to place it near the living window. What they pulled out of the box was a crib. Michael, what's going on? What is this? I asked, confused. It's a surprise, Michael replied with a smile. A surprise? I repeated, still unsure. Look, Miranda, you've been having a hard time with Dad and Mom, Michael continued. I thought if we all lived together, you would see how great they are and get along. What are you talking about? I frowned at Michael's behavior. He seemed to think he had done something good for me. As I took a deep breath to complain, Elsie, holding her baby, glared at me and said, What's your problem? We're family. There's no issue with us living together. So as family, Elsie will help with the household chores like I do, I replied, still confused. Of course not, Elsie said, shaking her head. I have a baby to take care of, and I just gave birth a week ago. You really need to think before you speak. That's right, I agreed, feeling overwhelmed. Besides, this living arrangement is also for your benefit, Miranda. Before Susie knew it, she had wandered into the living room and seemed to have heard what Elsie was saying. Agreeing to Elsie's baffling remarks, Susie started to say even more incomprehensible things. Miranda will have to take care of each other in our old age, Susie said. And if a child comes along, we'll naturally have to raise it. That's why we agreed to Michael's suggestion to live together as practice for all that. What? I asked, feeling even more confused. So we'll practice taking care of the house for our future, and also practice childcare for when you have kids. Isn't that great? Susie asked, No matter how many times I heard it, the response would likely be the same, I thought to myself. I was stunned for a moment, then shot Michael, the root cause of this mess, a piercing glare. Michael just smiled and said, Miranda must be happy too, right? I felt a chill, thinking that this man might not understand his wife's feelings, or anyone else's for that matter. He must have noticed my displeasure because suddenly, Michael's mood soured, realizing his surprise had failed. What's the matter? You don't like it? Michael asked, his smile fading. Well, Dad, Mom, and Elsie have all decided to live here. If you don't like it, you can leave. I couldn't take it anymore. I quietly headed to the bedroom and grabbed the divorce papers I had hidden in the bedside drawer. I had prepared these papers when I previously discussed issues with Michael. I never thought I would actually use them, but their time had come. I returned to the living room and handed Michael the divorce papers. I'm leaving, I said firmly. I'm leaving. I calmly made my declaration and began to prepare to leave, pulling out a large suitcase I had stored in the closet. At first, Michael was saying things like, Why did you do this, Miranda? I did it for you. But when he saw that I was ignoring him, he filled in the blanks on the divorce papers and handed them back to me without a word. I took them silently and put them in my bag. While I was packing Raven, Susie and Elsie mocked me, saying, Did Michael dump you? But the truth is, I'm the one who's leaving him. The ones who would be in trouble once I left were definitely Michael and his family. He's convinced of this. I packed everything I needed into my suitcase and took refuge at a friend's house for a while. I couldn't impose on my friend forever, so I immediately started looking for a new place to live. I found a promising place near my work, and it took about a month to move out. During that time, there was no contact from Michael. I didn't care, as it was only natural since we were divorced. But just as I had finished moving, I got a call from Michael. When I picked up the phone, thinking Michael might have forgotten something, he blurted out, Help! According to Michael, things at his home had gone from bad to worse. The constant crying of a baby had left everyone sleep-deprived, and fights were breaking out due to the tension. Michael and his family all disliked and were bad at housework, leading to more arguments about who should do what. As a result, chores piled up, garbage and dirty dishes accumulated, and flies began to infest the house. Moreover, Michael admitted he hadn't thought about finances and was now in a tight spot. I can't pay off the mortgage on my own. The only ones working in Michael's household were Michael and Elsie's husband. But soon after moving in, Elsie and her husband had a huge fight, leading to their divorce and departure just like us. As a result, Michael was left to pay the mortgage, originally intended to be split between the two of us. Supporting Raymond, Susie, Elsie, and Elsie's baby while paying off the mortgage would be tough. I was surprised to hear about Elsie's husband leaving, but I had always known Michael would eventually struggle with the mortgage. Still, I couldn't forgive Michael for unilaterally deciding to live together and telling me to leave if I didn't like it. Where are you now? Things are really bad here. Dad and Mom are getting sick, and Elsie isn't helping with anything. She even takes money from my wallet. Do you calling me back will solve your problems? I don't understand. Why do you think my return would fix anything? Are you not just trying to use me as a housekeeper to lighten your load? When I said this sarcastically, Michael fell silent. I wanted to live happily with you in that house. You're the one who ruined it. I don't need to see it to know you're struggling with parents and a sister like that. It must be tough, but you chose this, so you'll have to deal with it. Dad, Mom, and Elsie are more than just selfish. It's fine. You said it yourself. Living together might make everyone get along. Michael had decided to move in together as a surprise to make me, Raymond, Susie, and Elsie get along. When I reminded him of this, he hesitated and said, "Well, anyway, we're divorced now, so it's none of my business. Good luck with the housework for your future caregiving and the childcare practice for when you have a new wife and kids." With that, I hung up and blocked Michael's number. I later heard about what happened to Michael and his family from a friend who had supported me during our marriage and provided a refuge during our divorce. This friend worked with Michael and had grown up in the same town, so they were in the loop. Michael continued to live in the house we had built, but the neighbors had a poor opinion of him. The constant crying of the baby and the insect-infested garbage in the house had earned him their disdain. Raymond and Susie were in poor health, frequently going in and out of the hospital. Michael was taking care of them while also raising Elsie's child. Elsie apparently found a new boyfriend and left the house, neglecting her own child in the process. When she returned, she was pregnant, and it turned out her new lover was already married. Even Michael couldn't contain his anger at Elsie and kicked her out of the house. Elsie, who had been financially supporting her new boyfriend, was now in debt and working a demanding job that provided lodging just to make ends meet. While I was shocked at how far Michael's household had fallen, it felt like poetic justice. As for me, I also found a new love, but my boyfriend is a single man, not a married one. He's gentle and kind, and his occasional endearing blunders make him all the more lovable. He doesn't mind that I've been divorced, and is willing to consider marriage at a pace that suits me. Given my previous fears about it, we decided to live together first, and are now cohabiting in a new apartment. His parents are incredibly kind and have already decided to move into a care facility when they're older so as not to be a burden on us. Our wish is not to trouble our children. If you and Miranda focus on your own happiness, that's all we could ask for, said my new mother-in-law, Sandra. Her words were so wonderful. I wished I could share them with Michael and his family. Recently, my boyfriend proposed to me and we plan to get married in a few months. This time, I truly believe this marriage will lead to my happiness.